Alright, so I'd say probably about 90% of people who own a Digitakt don't know how to do this. What's good everyone, Enrique with another video, and this time we're going to be talking about the Digitakt and how to back up your samples, your sounds, your patterns, and even the projects. Basically your Digitakt as a whole, that way you can get it back safely in case anything goes wrong. So this may seem a little intimidating, especially when people start throwing in terms like sysx dump and MIDI config and project settings, or they just start telling you to check the manual, but you may be surprised on how easy this is to actually do. So let's go ahead and head to the desk. Okay, so before we begin, there are a few things we're gonna have to gather in order to do this properly. You're gonna need, of course, the Electron Digitakt with its power supply and USB cable. Let's not forget your laptop, of course. Next, you're going to need two separate applications, both of which you can find on Electron's website, but to save you guys the hassle, I've already gone ahead and put links to both of those in the description below. So before we continue, make sure you download those. One of them is called Transfer, which is used to transfer samples and stuff between devices or between your device and the computer. And the other one is called C6 for all of its SYX or sysx style files. And another thing you're going to need is some patience, because it can go a very long way when it comes to tinkering around and trying to troubleshoot a couple things. Also, if you guys are short on time, here's a timeline of when everything is going to happen, so you guys can go ahead, feel free to jump around or stick around. You guys are always welcome. So let's start with backing up samples. I wanted to start with this first just because if everything else goes haywire and you lose everything, you at least still have your samples and your tools that you used to originally make the track. So get your Digitakt, power it on, and then plug the USB cable into your computer. And then from there, we're gonna go onto the computer and open up the Transfer app. So let's see, Transfer. Also, quick side note, I'm doing this on a Mac. I'm pretty sure all this stuff applies to PC or Windows. I don't see why it wouldn't, but if it doesn't, I'm truly sorry. On the Transfer app, you'll be able to see in the Connections tab, which we're in right now, you should see MIDI in and MIDI out. So make sure that the Electron Digitakt in 1 is selected, and on the MIDI out section, do exactly the same. So now that they're selected, go ahead and hit connect. Real quick though, if yours are not popping up, hit this refresh button after you have powered on your Digitakt as well as plugged it into your computer. So we'll hit connect now. Now it's going to drop you over into the drop tab, which is where you can throw some samples into here and select what folder they're going into and whatnot. And you can even drag and drop from Finder. Another cool thing here is you can also see what firmware you're running. At the time of this video, 1.10 or 1.10 is what's out, so that's what I have here. So to actually take samples from your Digitakt and put them onto your computer as a backup, you're going to want to click on the Explore tab. And here, by default, your desktop should show up on the left-hand side under Computer, and your Digitakt with all your stuff here should show up on the right-hand side. Ignore this folder here. I was just testing some stuff. So next, what you're going to want to do is under the Computer section, which is my left side over here, I'm going to go and find what folder I want to put the backup of my samples from the Digitakt onto my computer. In this case, I'm going to go to my Digitakt backups, 2018 November samples. So here is where I'm going to basically back up my Digitakt samples. And it's super simple. You're just going to go here, shift and select all of them, which is in my main directory section, right? So once they're selected, click and drag over onto the left side and let go. So this is going to transfer over all your samples, and it may take a while, so I'll come back to you guys when it's done. Cool, so we're back. Everything's finished, and you can see down below basically everything that has happened while we were gone. In some cases, you may have a couple samples that didn't make its way through. For me, I've been fine ignoring them because in most cases I was never even using them in a song to begin with, or that they got messed up on the initial transfer from the computer into the Digitakt, like wrong files type or something strange. But so me, I just kind of ignore them, and once they're all finished, I can hit clear finished. So we're still in that same folder directory, right? But you're like, okay, it just finished, what the heck? Where are all my samples and my backup? It's kind of weird the way this works, but you have to hit this refresh button. It doesn't do like an automatic refresh, so watch this. Bam, right there you can see that my stuff is in here. And if you want to be double sure and double check, you can just go over into that folder itself. We'll see here 2018 November samples, boom, drums, and my recorded ones. So these are all the samples that I had from my Digitakt to begin with. Quick pro tip, since these file sizes and folder sizes aren't too big, you guys should try and utilize some of the free things out there like Dropbox or Google Drive. Again, just as another precautionary measure to back up your Digitakt in case something goes haywire or you lose a bunch of stuff, you still have it up in the cloud. Another benefit of this is in case you want to share your samples with friends or you're traveling somewhere, somebody lets you borrow Digitakt, you can get all your samples back right away. And pretty much the same way you took the samples off the Digitakt and backed them up onto your computer is basically the same way you would restore them from the computer back onto the Digitakt, but in that reverse order. So I'm going to go ahead and do what we did before. Basically click this, shift select, and drag this over. Make sure that you are in the top directory file though, that way your samples can be found on projects and whatnot. Or if you're trying to do something different, you can always drag and drop samples into specific folders as long as you double click them first. So I'm gonna go back and in here, these selected, drag them over and check this out. This is kind of cool. So I do this and you can see that it's going through them really fast, right? And they all failed. Don't be alarmed though, it's because it's pretty smart in understanding if you have an identical file already, especially because the Digitakt doesn't have the craziest amount of space when it comes to samples. I'm really glad they've implemented this feature. So because these are already on my Digitakt, it's not even letting me add them. Again, clear finished and clear all. All right, now on to backing up your Digitakt as a whole. If you guys just finished the sample backup part, I highly suggest unplugging and replugging the USB of your Digitakt because I've had some weird scenarios where it wasn't being recognized for the next part until I unplugged it and replugged it. Okay, so with your Digitakt on and plugged into your computer, next what we're going to want to do is open up C6. So we'll type that in and bam, this little window should pop up, which is not very Electron looking at all. And to be honest, I think they're going to completely do away with C6 and try to do everything on the transfer app. But we'll get on that a little more later. So then you're going to want to hit this config button, which means configure. And in here, we want to make sure that the Electron Digitakt is selected for both the MIDI input and the output. Over here is some miscellaneous settings. I usually leave this set to 10. You can do this set to 1 if you want. I've had no problems with it to make it go a little faster, but at what cost really? So let's go ahead and leave it at 10. Then of course, press OK. And for those of you wondering what this exactly does, basically it's the amount of delay between each bit of information that's being sent to the Digitakt. So sometimes it could be happening too fast that your Digitakt kind of chokes up or misinterprets a message and it could brick your device. It's never happened to me. I've had it happen on other devices and I've heard of it happening to other people's devices, but yeah, do what you will. So from here, we're going to go over to the Digitakt, hit the cogwheel to go into our settings. Scroll down to sysx dump and sysx send. And here you can either send the project as a whole or individual patterns. In this case, we want to go to the entire project. So we're going to scroll up, hit right, and go over to active project. And before we hit yes here, we want to go and make sure that on C6, we're set to receive. So looking at the screen here, you can see this receive button. I'm going to hit that and it says receiving 0 bytes. So if I hit enter now on the Digitakt, or I guess the yes button, it says sending. If we look over on the computer, you can see it's receiving a bunch of information, which is basically the project that we have stored here on the Digitakt. Bam, you can see it said completed. Looking at the computer, it stopped receiving bits of information or bytes, so we can go ahead and hit the stop button. Boom, right there, received data 1. Now what we want to do here is hit save and make sure, this is pretty important, hit receive data first and make sure it's highlighted. Otherwise, if you have a bunch of stuff in here, it's going to try and save all of it at once. So make sure it's highlighted, then you're going to hit save and you can rename this. And let's go ahead and rename this what today's date is. Today is the 10th, so let's do 11/10/18. And you can see I want to go into my Digitakt 2018 November sysx. And here's where I want to save this. So hit save, boom, boom, it's done and done. And yeah, that's basically it. From here, we can exit here, go into our Digitakt backups and make sure that we have our sysx file, which is our entire project right there. So now if we wanted to do the opposite of that, right, which is restore our Digitakt from the sysx file that we just saved onto our computer, we're going to utilize the same C6 application. In here, we are going to hit load, or another thing you can do is just go find it using Finder. In this case, my little folder tree I got going on here, and you can drag and drop this over into the application. So bam, there it is. I'm going to hit configure, make sure that this stuff is set up accordingly, the same way that it was when we received the sysx from the Digitakt. And now we're going to select it and hit send. So I'm on a blank pattern, or a blank project I should say, here on the Digitakt. And the cool thing with sending sysx to the Digitakt, you don't need to go into that one little menu, which was sysx dump and receive. It'll start doing it on its own, as you can see here. Another cool thing, if I hold down patterns, you can see my pattern starting to load as it's being received, which is kind of, I guess, cool to look at. It's almost like a progress bar in a weird way. This is a completely blank project. We have nothing on here, so you can see it all going in. This is going to take a little bit, so I'll catch you guys in a second when it's done. Actually, real quick, what I was mentioning earlier about Electron being done with C6, I kind of have this weird feeling that they're going to get rid of this application eventually and just move everything over to the transfer app. That's only because you can kind of technically do this using the transfer app, which is basically sending a sysx over to the Digitakt, but you can't receive a sysx that I know of through transfer, and it's still kind of clunky. So I think eventually it'll all be on the transfer app, but for right now we have to use the C6 application. Cool, so we're back and it's done, right? But check this out, this is kind of cool. If I go and I jump over to some of my patterns, you can see that they're still named the way they were and everything is still here because we haven't changed any of the routing or folder structure basically. So everything is pulled back the way it was. I can even see all my samples here. They're still where they need to be, which is awesome. Again, this was a completely blank project and we got it back in its full entirety. So that's pretty much it when it comes to backing up your samples, restoring your samples, backing up your projects and patterns and whatnot. I really hope you guys find this video helpful. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate the thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down and let me know down in the comments below how I can make these videos better for you to enjoy. Another quick side note, you guys can always follow me on my Instagram where I post a lot of other videos like this, a little bit more jam based, and in my other studio where I have a bunch of other gear, and there may be a piece of gear in there that you want to see a video on, so hit me up on my IG and let me know about it. Also, if you can, hit that subscribe button in case you want to see content like this on a weekly basis and sometimes bi-weekly basis, if I got time, of course. But with all that nonsense out of the way, you guys know the drill, and that's to share the love, share the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Peace.